The History Guy show is cool, huh? We like that show. You want cracker? Cracker. So what adventure are we going to do today, Beans? Honey? What adventure are we going to do? You know what I think it'd be fun to go do? Would be to go do and go see the community college. Forum's Community College. Maybe see if they've got a planetarium or something. It'd be cool to look at and maybe shoot a video of if they let us. Huh? What do you think? With Jenny? Jenny, she comes up? Joni? This is a little small. The thing about that is, it rides a little high. I maybe want something different. Jenny, this is Ronnie. Oh, what happened? She hung up before it hung up. Before it answered. Okay. It's tangled. Couldn't pick it up in time. Anyway, she's right out there. Just step out there. Get the key. Well, I guess we won't go to the planetarium because Sabrina can't ride in a car. Well, anyway, so here, let me show you this, what we're doing real quick. We've been working on. We want a target. See, it's like that. Well, this isn't the actual one, and this was one I tried. Just I want to see how hard it is to just cut one out with the waste cutters. It's way difficult. Anyway, so the first seal accelerator, this is the primary motor. We're building it out of scrap, cutting it out of, well, not hard drive covers, whatever, any kind of sheet metal that's large enough to do the job. Like computer covers. And as we run out, we'll need more. We'll need more sheet metal. Because we have to build for the first test unit, the first test one is going to be a bike. We're going to build 2 of these. Okay? 2 TAS units. And the Viper bike is going to be the test unit. And then ultimately the flagship is going to be the, oh, I know you need it. The flagship will be the one with the 4 TAS units on each corner. Each TAS unit will get named accordingly to the 4 tornadoes that hit Florida. That were came out off the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, each corner in sequence. So as they get mounted, they get named. So as I build them out of junk. So here we got a place now. So we're going to donate the use of an arbor press when we get ready to make this part. Okay, these parts. So this is just the first stage. It's 12 stages. So they all stack up into the vorticeal accelerator. You know, okay, which ultimately this TAS called TAS units because Tasmanian Devil. I got the idea watching Twister and Bugs Bunny cartoons. Okay, watching Twister and Bugs Bunny, I came up with the vorticeal accelerator. Okay, which the actual one's made out of laminated pole pieces that will get wound with wire. Okay, which I will get from TVs. Electric motors, I'll make from scrap wire I can get from like, if I can come up with some number 4 stranded, whatever, and I'll flatten it into, or some number four solid, and I'll flatten it into flat winding, coat it with some high temperature, varnish, okay, and make magnet wire out of it. So I can wind them. The very bottom one is going to need to be the biggest windings because this is the very first one is where the material gets collected, right? You got to collect it all up in there into the vortice so it can be accelerated from there and brought up to appropriate velocity where it can be put to work, where the angular momentum at spin angle y can be extracted linearly then to angular momentum spin angle x and result in, guess what, flight. It'll go because radius 1 is way smaller than radius 2. We've got like a 1,000 to 1 ratio figure about where we're figured. We'll see how it comes out, because I'm starting the very first one with arbitrary dimensions. Just arbitrarily, boom, I'm gonna make the first one, and then I'll make the second one, the first 2, the next 4 after that for the Space Viper car. That's gonna be, here's the goal. Here's why I wanted to do this segment now. Okay, before we go get some shakes, okay, is because the Space Viper car. What I want to do with the Space Viper car, the appointment I've been talking about, is there to be waving at all the artists and Elon Musk and that Japanese guy that bought all those tickets on SpaceX to be there in my Space Viper waving at them. Of course, they're going to leave 3 days early. I predict because of from the math that I've done and the work I've done, if we could bring it together and if physics is correct, that's what I'm saying. I've used physics to do this. If the physics is correct, okay, I should be able to get there in a few hours. Okay? With the Holy Grail of propulsion. Because of something called centrifugal acceleration. Centrifugal acceleration is equal to the angular velocity. Yeah. The angular velocity and centrifugal acceleration are equal. So that means that, well, I did one here. Just do this real quick. Imagine here, I just did some rough calculating. If I have if I have 100 kilograms of which is about 298 pounds or so of matter. 100 kilograms is the magnetic mass plus the other fluid, the cooling fluid and the lubricating fluids, the other lubricating materials. Okay, so those materials together are weakly. So I'm imagining that we're accelerating 100 kilograms of mass to an accelerator that has an output where the circumference of the output of the accelerator is 1 meter, right? So now if we go around here one time in 1 second, that's 1 meter per second, right? Okay, so we do that 5,000 times in a second before we let it go out like that. We're letting it go out at 5 times the speed of sound. And if we take that across a radius of about 30 centimeters, 1, 2, 3, about 30 centimeters. Okay, and of course, in the tiara of this of the TAS unit, because it's broken up into basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 basic pieces that I can describe it with. That 3 pieces that make up the vorticile accelerator and the mezzanine, and 2 other parts that make up the tiara and the recollection tub. Again, what I call a recollection tub is where it's taken back in. The wide radius is taken back in and then recollected into angle X acceleration. Okay, recollected and accelerated again. So we want to do this about 100 times a second, and we get because the full equation involves acceleration, centrifugal acceleration over time and resistance. Okay, so but you can do it often enough to get over to where the amount of time you're doing it overcomes the amount of resistance that's against it. So you ultimately have acceleration. So ultimately, so here's how this goes: is if we gotta we do the math where we take the 100 kilograms, okay, over a 30 centimeter radius, that's 0.3 meters, okay, and of course physicists and even college people that are studying college physics, if they haven't learned it already, they will learn that the simplest one, calculating centrifugal force is the mass times velocity squared divided by the radius. So we have a velocity of, what was it? 5 kilometers per second. That's 5,000 meters per second. 5,000 squared is what? 5 times 5 is 25. Okay, 5,000 has 3 zeros. That's 6 zeros on the end of 25. Yeah, so that's 25,000,000, 6 zeros is 1, 2, 25 million. Okay, divide that by 0.3 centimeters. Okay, we're talking about 8 billion. Okay, we're talking about so much force. Okay, let's see. We don't even need 5,000 cycles per second. You dig what I'm saying? To do the job we want to do, I can do it on 1,000 cycles per second. See? And even at that, still get enough velocity. Now here's how this works. You want to do some math on your calculator? And then we can keep this here. We'll just keep talking. I'll just You know, we'll just shoot this. I can't shoot you, but we can point it at me, right, while we talk. Okay, so now do this math. Take 1 meter per second. Okay? Now in 1 second, if you're going to accelerate to 1 meter per second, I've got the shoes here. These are cute. I'll wear my puffies. Okay, so if you can accelerate from 0 to 1 meter per second in 1 second, okay, that's called an acceleration of 1 meter per second. Okay. So now you continue that acceleration within your second meter. How fast are you going?
2. You double it.
You're going 1 meter per second, and you're already at 1 meter per second. You're accelerating to 1 meter per second each second. Okay. So every second you go, you double the distance. You double the speed. So you're at 2 meters per second in 2 seconds. 1 meter per second, and then in 2 seconds you're 2 meters per second. If you keep that going in another second, guess what happens? Because you're accelerating at 1 meter per second. You've already accelerated 1 meter per second. You've already accelerated another 1 meter per second. You're going to add another. In the doubling of distance, you're going to add again. You're going to square that meter per second. For every doubling of distance, again. Every time you double the distance, it's meter per second squared. If you keep accelerating faster and faster and faster. So, if you're traveling so in 4 seconds, how fast are you going? It's not 4 meters per second. 16 meters per second is 4 times 4, right? Isn't that right? Yeah, because let's go. First one is 1. Next one is you're going 1 and you're twice. This is your 2 meters per second. Next second, you've doubled it again. So it's the mean square of 2, so it's 4. And the next second is the mean square of that, so it's 8. And the next second is the mean square of that, it's 16. Okay, keep doing it. Do it for about 15 minutes and see what you come up with. Keep over and over. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And it doesn't take very long. You keep accelerating. If you had no speed, no top speed in the vehicle you're in, it doesn't take long. You're at 299, 792, 493 meters per second. You know how fast that is? That's how fast light travels in a second. That's how far light goes in 1 second. It goes 299,000 million. 792,483 meters per second. So I think I'd love to have, a phone number I'd love to have? Jenny? You know what phone number I'd love to have?
What's that?
And I would take the phone number, I would take the name for that phone number for the Public Space Association as contact name. Johnny 10 times light speed. Just put a 0 on the end of that. You got a great phone number. 299 792 4930. Just call Johnny times light speed. Oh, Johnny 10 times light speed. Okay. See, we have theoretical models that demonstrate the possibility that light speed is not the limit. That light speed is only what we've been able to observe from particles, subatomic particles, waves, patterns. It's just like, see, the maximum speed you can travel through water is not the speed of sound through water. See?
Yeah.
What I'm saying, it's the speed.
Yeah.
It's not, the minimum the wave that comes off of a surfer off of the boat, and you see that wave pattern travel. That's the minimum resonant frequency. That's not the minimum resonant frequency of a big pond. The big pond has the resonant frequency of a big pond. But that wave pattern, when you drop a pebble in the pond, travels travels off that pebble at a rate, and it's not very fast at all. Okay, and of course, sound travels faster than that. And then there's things that can travel through water faster than that. If you shoot a bullet into the water, it'll cavitate through the water, be like cavitation behind it, but it still goes faster than the speed of the sound that's going through the water, or the speed of that primary wave pattern. See? Mm-hmm. Oh, it might not be faster than the speed of sound traveling through the water, though. But still, consider the speed of sound through water, how much energy it would take to overcome that. It could still do it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And likewise, same thing with space-time. Theoretically, without getting into scratching a bunch of incomprehensible symbols and formula and stuff,
Yeah.
Basically theoretically possible. And in a way, it's like maybe it's a way of another kind of wormhole, but not a wormhole. Kind of like the way that a jet, when it goes over the sound barrier in air, how it punches through the hole. It basically punches through the wave front that's created by the pressure, by the initial pressure. It creates wave front. So when something exceeds it, it pokes through that pressure zone. You know what I'm saying? It's a zone where there's an increased pressure that works like a bubble. Sort of. Once you bust through that bubble, you're past it, and then you can continue on, and there won't be another reaction until maybe you reach another threshold of resonance. Okay. So anyway, here I got $1. How much do you think I need? Let me grab another.
Don't worry.
$1. All right, Beans, I need you to come in the house because I don't trust you to stay home. Okay? I can't bring you with me, but you're going to just go get shaken, okay? So I need you to come in. This can't be an adventure for you. You need to come in the house, honey. All right? Can you? Come in the house. Come in the house. Beans, come on. Come in the house. Come on. Come in the house. Come on. Come on, honey. Yeah, come on, baby. Yeah. Just hang out at home here. And then, so Jimmy and I'll be back in a while. Yeah. No, I know you're all depressed because you got to stay home, huh? You can't go because you can't ride your car. Don't worry. We'll take the bike right later. How about that? All right, back here. I'll make it up. All right. Go right around back to the bike park. So I'll be back in a little bit, alright? Oh, you want me to put something on here? I'm going to put something on for you. Okay, so let's see. We'll put on, ought to do. I'll give you something to listen to. TV, there you go. See, you're on TV. Yeah, got you on TV, Bean. Yes, on TV.
There you go. That's good.
This is an unprecedented event. What can you tell me what's so special about it? Sure can. Well, what are you waiting for? Let's go. Let's hear it. All right. Well, look, pipe down a little bit. Come on. You gotta shut up for a second. Anyway, yeah. Well, he's bringing in Renee from Alaska to start the World Peace Tour. That's wrong. That's World Tour for World Peace. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I guess those tech guys, they got a little carried away there on the cameras. It looks like they got every view in the world covered. So what he's got a couple of musical groups that are ready and hot and fired up and ready to go all over the world, and he wants to rally together every entertainer, every actor, every musician, everybody, and bring together an event that educate the whole world on what is necessary to achieve world peace. That's correct. And old Master Jason believes that through the proper application of technology, we can solve the plight in the world. Yeah, and once everyone has everything they need, nobody will want to hurt anybody anymore. Well, it sounds like quite an undertaking. They believe it's possible. Well, I suppose with the internet and all like it is now. Yes, certainly. They just touched down, by the way. Looks like a fairly good landing. You know what they say in aviation? Any landing you can walk away from is a good one.
I'd like you to try something for me. I want you to try and imagine a world without money. A world that doesn't use money at all. No banks, no cash, no wages, no bills, no money of any kind whatsoever. What do you see? Let me guess. Maybe you imagine everyone going back to a more primitive lifestyle, living a meager existence with growing their own crops and livestock, kind of like peasants. Or maybe you see a complete breakdown of society, no laws or social order, people desperate or too lazy to grow their own food, stealing it from others, or maybe even killing each other to survive. Doesn't sound like a very attractive prospect, does it? Well, supposing I told you that that is not what would happen, that in fact a deliberate decision to stop using money would actually make our lives many times better than they are now. Look at your life right now, for example. Just how free are you? Do you owe money to anyone or to a bank, like a credit card debt or a mortgage maybe? You can't just ignore these things, can you? If you don't pay them, you might end up losing your home or even put in jail. And what about your job? If you have a job and you love it, great, but most people only work because they have to. You have to work to pay your bills. If you don't work, the lights go out, the water gets turned off, phone's disconnected, you can't buy food, etc., etc. So you're not really that free at all, are you? And like most people, you probably think that this is simply a fact of life. You have to work to make money to live, just like our parents did. Well, let me tell you, this is not a fact of life anymore. Let me explain why. Firstly, bear in mind that we don't actually need money, we just need the things that money buys for us, like food, clothing, a home, electricity, phone, computer, and so on. Money itself is just a middleman, which on its own is completely useless and just causes misery to anyone who doesn't have enough of it. Now, with today's technology, just about everything we produce for ourselves is done by machines or computers. In fact, this is the very reason why we have huge unemployment everywhere. The machines are taking all our jobs. But if you stop and think about that, this is really a good thing. Technology has completely freed us from hard labour. We should be celebrating that fact. So if we don't need people to produce the stuff we consume, then it surely follows that producing these things is a very easy thing to do. And if producing stuff is easy, then there's absolutely no reason at all why we shouldn't be doing it for everybody, is there? Not just the ones who can pay. At the moment, our economy is all about moving money around, and nothing to do with actually giving us what we need. Doesn't make sense, does it? The only constraint to producing the goods we need should be what's physically possible, and not what's affordable. Believe it or not, our planet has plenty of resources to provide for everyone. The only thing we're short of, it seems, is money. So why not just make everything free? Forget about money altogether. Why not? It's our world, we can make our own rules. The only thing money creates is inequality. A scoring system for humanity that decides who gets what. For the first time in history, our technology allows us to do away with this notion of haves and have-nots. And that's only the beginning. Making our world free would unleash our full technical potential, allow us to tap into clean energy sources, bring meaningful prosperity and knowledge all across the world, and even put an end to war and injustice forever. Just imagine food produced to the highest standards in plentiful supply, bigger, better hospitals and schools with no budget problems, clean energy and communications available to everyone, space exploration, underwater cities. Who knows? Take away costs, and the only limit is our imagination and the raw materials needed to make whatever we want. In today's society, if you don't have money, basically you die. This is not just wrong, it's completely immoral, because it's unnecessary. There is another way, a new way, a free world without money, where everything is free, where you are free, where we can provide for everyone and finally see an end to starvation and poverty, where society is as fair as it possibly can be, where technology, unhindered by costs, is so advanced that we would hardly recognize ourselves. And it's all possible now, if we choose it. The Free World Charter is a simple document that defines 10 fundamental principles on which to build just such a new society. These principles are not rules or laws, they are just simple statements on common sense, the common good, and the survival of us and our planet. A society faithful to these principles will ultimately have no need for laws. By signing the Free World Charter, you are simply saying yes please to a fairer, freer, and better world for everyone. Please sign it today at freeworldcharter.org. Thank you very much.
Coalition support have liberated the western town of Rupa and have also pushed up the Euphrates River Valley, liberating the strategic town of Heat and
The
breaking the
month
ice.
began here. The month began on this day, Wednesday. This is the day, it's Tuesday. As Walker's pointed at 9, between 9 and on 4. So this next work will be built on the defrigging mode, the sea Dorian mode, and we have our pick of whatever mode we want to use on the A flat, and whatever mode we want to use on the D flat, or C sharp. There's some transitionary between them. We use something like that. Okay, so there it is.
And the reason I am careful about how I describe this threat has nothing to do with political correctness and everything to do with actually defeating extremism. Groups like ISIL and Al Qaeda want to make this war a war between Islam and America, or between Islam and the West. They want to claim that they are the true leaders of over a billion Muslims who reject their crazy notions. They want us to validate them by implying that they speak for those billion plus people, that they speak for Islam. That's their propaganda. That's how they recruit. And if we fall into the trap of painting all Muslims with a broad brush, and implying that we are at war with an entire religion, then we are doing the terrorist work for them. that's not thinking of me. We're starting to see where this kind of rhetoric and loose talk and sloppiness about who exactly we're fighting. Where this leads. We now have proposals from the presumptive Republican nominee for president of the United States to bar all Muslims from immigrating to America. You hear language that singles out immigrants, that suggests entire religious communities are complicit in violence. Where does this stop? In Atlanta, one of the San Bernardino killers, before who killed them, they were all U.S. citizens. We're going to start treating all Muslim Americans differently. We're going to start subjecting them to special surveillance. We're going to start discriminating against them because of their faith.
I guess you can't help but see what it is that it does to me to be tolerated like a bad disease. You get away as quick as you can. Get away now.
Yes, indeed. What'd she do while we were gone, huh? What did she do? Horrible. The breath smells like death. What have you been eating? What's she been eating, huh? What has she been eating, huh? Make her breath so bad. Glider. Something we get here in Pahrump all the time. Well, not all the time. There's a rental company out here. We want to go do it someday. Go fly it around Pahrump. Huh, Bean? Would you strap in a harness and we go hang gliding together? Huh? Did you like that? You don't even know what hang gliding is, do you? Flying in the air. Huh? Yeah. Hang glider. Yeah. Well, so, have a nice journey, huh? Nice time. Nice journey out there going Scott there to get that. There's something apart. Get that thing apart. I found the tool to take it apart. So you can really get the part. Let's start an upload. We've got a movie done. Nice movie. There you go. Oh, we have one missed call. Let's do the missed call first. Contact us. Battery's too low to automatically upload. Then we stop us from making a call. Hey, Blue, what's up? Well, hey, let's see. I was in a meeting at 4:30. Yeah, that took up about an hour and a half or so. And then right after that meeting came Scott. So I went with Scott. So now I'm clear for me to start meeting with Scott. So now I can have a meeting with you. We can have a 420 meeting. Yeah, a 420 meeting. Yeah. You have diamond dust now, that's right, huh? Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna do diamond. Oh, are you meeting here? Okay. So would you walk to the Grove? You walk to the Grove? This is screw it, you can walk. Well, good. Independence, right? that's the best way to be, you know, don't let nothing stop you.
I never had.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, and it does get tougher as you get older. You get more and more. You know, you can't help it but get. You know, your bones get weaker because it's. You know, shit gets longer to heal or whatever. But you know, I believe that as long as you stay in motion, you're gonna be able to move. It's when you quit moving as you get older. That's when you end up not being able to move. Is when you quit moving. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it hasn't been very long, you know, when her mobility started to fade, and then it's fading faster and faster. So, yeah. Oh, okay. Alright, see you get here. Alright. Alright, bye-bye. The gate will be unlocked. Okay. So Boo's coming, Sabrina. Yeah, Boo's coming to see you. She's not here yet, though. He's coming, though. Trash out. housekeeping, huh? Clean it up. Yeah, waiting for Boo. A little clean up before he shows up. You know what we want to do though? That's enough of that. I'm tired. I want to go look and see what kind of stock. Let's go look while we got a little light. We can turn on the lights. So let's go look in the shop for some wire, huh? What do you think? Well, it's not a shop yet. Right now it's just a storage room. Oh, there he is. There's Boo.
Not saying something.
Hey.
Oh,
Here.
here. Than you've ever been, dog.
Oh, wow. Really?
Oh my God.
Diamond dust. Beam, beam. You sure do shine. Boom, boom. Such a radiant. Doom, doom. A radiant child. Doom, doom. Seals and cross. That light is losing it. I don't have a good magnifying glass handy. Where did I put all my magnifiers? Nice. Ooh, baby. Excellent. Diamond, bum, bum, you sure do shine. We were just talking now. See, when we went to have fraps. See, and now we were just talking about it. That, and here's how I figured I can wrap my head around this like this. This is it. Let's use pennies. Each penny represents 1 meter per second, an acceleration, or you're traveling 1 meter per second from here to here. So if you start here, okay, and you go boom to here, and that represents 1 second in time and the traversing of 1 meter in 1 second. Boom. Okay, so you've accelerated. Now, if you keep that acceleration, okay, all right, that represents a steady rate, right? For so many seconds, you just not go any faster. You just keep 1 meter per second. So 4 seconds go by, you're at 4 meters, right? Okay, so now, in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds. Let's just use 5 seconds now as a reference. Now, in 5 seconds, now let's use additional pennies to represent additional acceleration. If you were to increase your speed, okay, 1 meter per second each, okay, until you increase 1 meter per second, here, 1 meter per second, and then you add another meter per second to the first meter per second. Now you're at 2 meters per second. Okay, if you keep that steady pace, okay, in 5 seconds, you're still moving 2 meters. Now you're moving 2 meters per second. Okay? Now, if you, in the first 2 seconds, you see, if in the first 2 seconds, you add an increase of speed, okay, another meter per second, okay, within the first 3 seconds, now you're at 3 meters per second. Okay? Now if you increase then again, so your steady speed is 3 meters per second. In 5 seconds still, you're 3 meters per second. If you increase another meter per second, okay, then now you're at 4 meters per second. But if in 5 seconds you increase another meter per second, now you're 5 meters per second. Okay, so you increase at 1 meter per second, okay? If you increase acceleration at 1 meter per second, it's equal to increase of acceleration at equal to another number of seconds. So it's easy to figure out just how fast you'd be going if you could continue accelerating. So just say in 7 seconds. See how that works in 7 seconds. And here we're at 5. It would just drop 6, and then we're at 6 meters per second. See, just like that. So it's 1 meter per second for every second. Is how that works. That's how that really worked. Okay. So now we wrapped our head around that and figured that out. Actually, how that would work using pennies. Our pennies represent a steady rate of acceleration. Okay, at a given rate. And that's 1 meter per second. Okay, A equals 1 meter per second. So now if we can accelerate at 1 meter per second, that's 1/10 of a gravity, because 1g is 9.80665 newtons per kilogram. So for if you're accelerating at 9.80665 meters per second, and steady. If each one of these equaled 9.8, now this is what's really amazing. Let's start right here. Let's each one of these equal 9.80665 meters per second. Okay? And here you add another one. Another 9.8. And so this still represents a steady acceleration rate. You can give this any value you want. This 9.8, let's just give it 10. Okay? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. In 6 seconds, you're doing 60 meters a second. Now, a compounded acceleration rate is different. Rockets give you, that's the rocket equation. They give you a compounded acceleration rate up to their limit. So they do this. They do this. They do like this, where it's like you go here, and then you go here, and then it depends on the thrust of the rocket. See? Here. Up to like 9 already. You know, something like that. And then here. The rocket equation says, okay, that you can only go so fast. See, I ran out of pennies. But basically that. A steady increase of acceleration, compounded, means multiples of acceleration. Gravity does that to you. So, steady increase of acceleration up to its limit. Say that's its limit as fast as it can go, and that's as fast it will ever go. Psh, steady rate again. See, let's imagine you have a fire extinguisher. Okay, here's your fire extinguisher. And it does accelerate at you to 1 meter per second, and then you can add a meter per second, but it compounds it in 3 seconds, and you're going 4 meters per second. Say, because that's its logarithm for its thrust per weight. See, this is what they don't tell you when they're talking about rocket equations and this and that, and that. You have power to weight ratio, and thrust is power. Okay. So you take your power to weight ratio against your thrust and all that stuff, and you finally arrive at a rate of acceleration. Okay, and if it's a compounded rate of acceleration, see, this is where you see real learning here happens, right here. If it's a compounded acceleration, see, then you're into a bit more. But see, ultimately, now let's say your fire extinguisher tops out right there. Okay. And that's as far as it's going to go up until, see, boom, you know, say it tops out for a minute, and then it starts losing, and I'm out of pennies. But let's borrow some from here, because that's how it would end up falling off in thrust. And then you have your remaining momentum left that keeps you moving for a while. And so you keep going even after the thrust is gone, and you're going. And if you're out in space, you keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going at that speed. All right, so now check this out. Check this out. Wrap your head around this. I see these guys on this video on TBD, and they got this guy at this end of this stick or something, and they got it pinned to a post, and they got this guy out there on the stick, and they're in here pushing like this, okay, like that, okay, boom, like that. So I came up with this idea. It's like, well, it would be one huge radius. We need cameras that would hold quite a lot of G's, because here, hold on, let me get a notepad. I'll show you on paper. Okay, first let me just do some graph shapes, okay, that would show you. Here's a graph like this. All right, let's do velocity and acceleration, AV, okay, here, and let's do time here, okay. Now, this is all relative. These are just some graphs. So go back to this thing with the penny for a minute, okay. So time here, okay, so let's give it some gradients. Each one of these dots here equals, okay, say 1 second gone by. All right, here, let's do this back here. All right. Alright, this pen's running out of ink. Pens are like that, kind of like, they start out at a steady push and then eventually quit. And they get pens do the opposite, they do this, okay, in time. Alright, so in ink per time, this for the amount of ink, and this for time. Okay, but now we're talking about acceleration and velocity. Okay, and you can track a momentum curve on right on the top of the same graph with the acceleration velocity curves. Okay, so let's say right here 0. We have 0 time, 0 acceleration. We haven't begun the event yet. Okay, so now let's say here's like one type of curve. Here's the compounded curve. This is where acceleration increases in time. Okay, this is how gravity pulls you in. Okay, all right. And here's the other curve. This is a steady acceleration in time. Okay, now, let me get something like a ruler. Here's the CD case. All right, so here's steady. Let me go off this way. This would be a steady acceleration in time. Okay, now this would be here's a if it were a steady acceleration in time, we get one that looks like this, that curves off and parallels to the. I mean, if it has a limit, say a rocket, or let's say it's a motorcycle, okay, and you hit the gas and it accelerates in a steady acceleration rate. So it adds an equal amount of acceleration per second that goes by, and finally, after so many seconds, it only goes so fast, and there you go. You're at full throttle, going full speed. 110, 120, 200 miles an hour, whatever it is. Okay. Now, in a rocket, you start out with a rocket, it's going to give you this, and then it's going to peter off, start losing thrust, eventually it loses thrust, and then gives you a steady for a minute, and then falls off. Okay? And then you're done. You have no thrust left. You, in your momentum curve, do this, like this. Your momentum, since force equals mass times velocity, here your momentum curve, and your momentum curve matches acceleration and all that other stuff. You can do the math, and it all matches. And here you are here at a steady velocity. Okay? Unless you're in the atmosphere, and then you do this. Okay? So that's pretty simple to understand the relationships of acceleration. So this involves acceleration with powers. Okay, so exponents. So you'd be acceleration raised to a power. Okay, power x, for instance, exponent. Exponent, get it? Okay, anyway. All right, this represents acceleration. Okay, this would have this curve raised to a power, acceleration raised to x. Okay, minus acceleration decline, the deacceleration. So we'll call it how about little dA? Okay, or little d, small little d, big little a. Okay, the deacceleration. Okay, this represents velocity. Okay, in time here, and velocity in time. Here, this represents loss of thrust. Okay, this represents velocity in time. This could represent deacceleration. Okay, of momentum or loss of momentum at loss of momentum. LM. You would do little l, big M if you want. Okay. So there it is in a nutshell. So the math you use, whatever you use, depends on whatever's actually happening here. You know, this is how you actually do it in the world. So if your rocket and your say the rocket you're using will produce an amount of thrust against, so you have thrust against mass, okay, against gravity, okay. So the amount of thrust that your rocket will produce, okay, gives you an amount of acceleration, okay, but it'll, against the amount of